decided to diverge into I decided to diverge into IT ecosystem. So that's what I did in my PhD level at Nairobi University. So because where the world is going, there's a lot of everything is going digital. Even the work of a finance person is also going digital. So basically, welcome on board. I think without wasting time, I think we'll be going through this topic. And as somebody says, time is a valuable asset. And we don't just want to exchange it for a paycheck end of the month because you cannot kill time. So basically, I'll go through four main items. I'll go through the definition. I'll look at what really is this active and passive income. Then we go through the journey. I'll go through money cycle, and then I'll be discussing why passive income, and then we look into examples based on some of the questions that we had received in advance. So um, future basically that I want. And I'm talking out of experience. I think along the way, as you had, my last paycheck job was the laundry East Africa. I was in charge of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Sudan. But I think I reached somewhere and I said, I think the future that I want is the future where my income is coming from uh, passive sources. So, and the main aim of why we discussing this topic, the main objective is at the end of the day to make money while you are sleeping. Make money while you are sleeping. You don't have to be there yourself. You can actually make money when you're away, when you're sleeping, you're still generating cash. So that is the future I want, and that is the future I'm encouraging us, all of us, to move towards. So, what is active income? Active income, I think, when we begin to talk about active income, we're only looking at how much time are you spending to earn the income that you are getting. For active income, it means that you'll have to spend your time and energy directly for you to be able to earn it. Look at if you're employed, it means you have to report to work at 8 and probably leave at 5. If you don't work, you're not paid. And therefore, and that is what income, active income is all about. But then we look at passive income is the opposite, where you earn you are actually earning your income, but then with little time spent actively participating to earn that income. I'll be discussing some of the sources, and it is the way to go to try to broaden our sources so that we are not limited to what we can be able to do. And somebody says that active income can pay your bills, but passive income is what builds your wealth because then you have other sources without directly committing your time to be able to earn it. Now, I just want to look in a few minutes just the broad difference between these sources of income. For active income, as I said, it tends to take the form of an employee because you actually the issue is that if you stop working, you stop earning. In Kenya, even if you become sick, your total salary up to certain period, 6 months, 3 months after that, your paid is fixed 50%, and then after some time, you're told that then you don't have the job. Basically, you're working for others. So it tends to take the form of an employee. But there is another angle of late, we have heard people talking about self-employed. Self-employed is basically when you work for yourself. You're not employed by somebody, but you're working for yourself. Suppose you have someone which you actually the one administering yourself. You actually get generating that income because you're spending your time there, but you're working for yourself. But on the other side, we look at passive income is where you come to a place whether you either take on as a business owner or an investor. As a business owner, basically, you then have people working for you than you working for other people. So you become a business owner. But even if you don't want to become a business owner, you can also become an investor where you have money beginning to work for you. Assume that you put your money in probably in money market or treasury bonds. Um, Somebody else is has the task to ensure that you get the right return. So money is working for you as an investor. So passive income takes the form of either business owner or investor, and active income takes the form of whether you're employed or you're self-employed. Um, so basically, that is the broad difference between these sources of income. But just to see where the major difference come, you always realize that when you talk about active income, the effort to be able to earn it is basically, it has to be continuous. That is why you report to your work uh, January up to December, you're allowed to take some leave, and therefore it has to be continuous. The opposite is true to passive income, where you basically spend minimum effort. Time, I think, requires a lot of time. When you talk about active income, requires a lot of time because you have to spend your time there. Uh, for passive income, you may need to spend sometimes initially, as we're discussing along, but after that, basically, you're able to redeem your time to do something else. In terms of risk, for active income, basically, the risk is low. And that is why if you find people tend to prefer unemployment for a long time, because the risk is a bit moderate, because you work, it is somebody else who bears the risk to ensure that your salary is being paid at the end of the month. But for you, once you work, you are sure at the end of the month you earn. But when you begin to move towards passive income, there is a risk basically you'll have to take. The more risk, the more profitable the venture you are in, it is. So risk and probability normally going to move in the same direction. In terms of stability, because of time factor, for active income, you are basically limited. You are limited, but for active, you can scale. You can be able to do quite a number of things because it doesn't require your presence to be there. So that's basically broad difference between this active and passive income. Now the question is which direction to go. Like that gentleman there who is in value of decision making, should I go left or should I right? Is a personal decision that we need to make as we go through this discussion today. So where do I start? Um, it's always a challenge. Where do I start? And the best way to start, I've always tell people, is savings. Savings is a way to start, and saving basically is a culture that somebody takes on. It does not matter how much you earn. You could be earning 5,000, you could be earning 2,000. You can actually be able to save. And someone says there is the way people look at savings between the rich and, forgive me for using the word poor, is because a rich man will invest the money he has, then he spend what is left. But for a poor person, because of mentality, he better spend whatever he has, then invest what is left. There is a difference between those two scenarios. So it's basically an issue of culture. And for you to be able to move towards this direction, of course, you have to start with the savings. And then, of course, once you do the saving, then you're able to probably borrow or then invest whatever you have saved. Then of course the income streams start coming in. So the thing goes round and round. So even if you, as you continue earning your passive income, you continue saving, and the circle goes on and on. So as I said, saving is a culture. Unfortunately, depending where you're coming from, probably this issue of saving was never told to some of us. But saving is basically a culture that you take on. It's also a biblical concept. For those who are Christian, they know that Joseph told Pharaoh, you have to save for so many years because hunger was coming. Saving has always been there. And the thumb of the road, people say, generally you at least do at least 15% of your salary. You can be able to save it, and so that you can be able to build a pool. And let me say, as professionals, sometimes we think that the best place to save is to open an account in the bank so that you can be able to save money. It is not the best. We don't encourage you to put money in the bank and think that you are saving, because you don't get any return from the bank. In fact, what normally happens with the bank is that you go, suppose you go with your 100,000, you go and put in your account. The institution, they will receive you, they smile at you, they tell you, now bring us, thank you for bringing your money. Suppose you put that money in January, they're very happy to receive that money. Immediately you walk out, somebody else come and say, I want to borrow, to take a loan from the bank. You know the money they're going to give that person, and the person will come and say, I want to borrow 100,000. You have walked out, somebody else walked in, the bank tells him you have the money, we can give it to you. They give him 100,000, and they tell you, we are going to charge you an interest of 20%. Basically, they have used your money to be able to generate income. But at the end of the year, you get zero. So we also encourage people that please do not put, don't put the money in the bank and think you're saving. In fact, to encourage people, one of the best places to save your money is normally like an avenue like where we have cooperative savings accounts, SACCOs, so that the good thing with the SACCO is that you put in money, that money that you put in, they pay you interest at the end of the year. And above that, you can use that money as a collateral to be able to borrow loan maybe 2, 3 times, so that you can be able to invest more. So basically, investment money makes for you money. Scott says, if you want to do something in your life you never had, then you have to do something that you have never done before. I believe you go through this discussion. I want to carry us along to try to do something different that you have never done before. Now, I want to spend a few minutes on the scenario that I've basically displayed there for us. There's this gentleman called Mr. King. Mr. King has quite a number of sources of income. A very intelligent person, very forward-looking person. He has various sources of income. And I want us to discuss this Mr. King. So Mr. King, the first thing he has is that Mr. King is employed as a manager in an organization. The income is very stable. So he works from Monday to Friday, from 8 to 5. Then Mr. King also is talented. He's an MC, he's able to talk to people. So sometimes during the weekend, Mr. King, what he does is that he's able to pick up some jobs as an MC, and therefore he's built for that work that he does. Mr. King is also a very clever guy, because Mr. King has a small car, and this car he uses to go to work in the morning at 8. But then what he has done is that he has registered this car as an Uber. So when he leaves the work at 5 in the evening, he activates the Uber app. So he's able to do at least some few hours, maybe up to 8, up to 9 o'clock. Then he earns his money before he goes to rest at home. Mr. King is also a very smart guy, because the company that Mr. King works for gives him an opportunity to travel abroad, to go to China, to probably Dubai. And therefore, what he does is that when he goes to that journey, he's able to pick some few shirts, some few clothes, and then in his luggage, he packs those luggage and come back to them into the country. And therefore, when he comes to the country, he calls a few friends, I have this, I have this. So he directly get involved in selling those clothes whenever he get an opportunity to go out. He's also broadened his sources of income. Sometimes when he's on leave, he's also involved in team building activities where he gets some jobs. Then, based on the experience that he has, then he goes and begins to do some team building, and he earns some cash. He never rests. Mr. King takes on a teaching job in the evening sometimes. He's called to do some evening classes. Therefore, he has extra time. He goes and he's paid per hour for that job that he's done. Now, Mr. King is very smart. He's a very good number of sources of income. I put this slide to some presentation I was doing. And for a minute, I just want you to reflect and try to categorize all these six sources of income, whether how many falls under passive and how many sources of income falls under active. I'll just give you 30 seconds to reflect on it. Assuming that you are Mr. King and you want to see whether how can you categorize that income? Because of interest of time, when I engaged some few friends of mine, they told me that Mr. King has one source of active income, and that is employment. And then Mr. King has other five sources that falls under passive income. I don't know if you agree with that, but I would like to tell you that Mr. King he has only one category of income, and that is active income. And I'll be explaining why. Um, it is because if you look at all these sources of income, it requires Mr. King to be there personally. Whether he wants to be an MC, he has to ride the Uber himself, he has to sell the cloth himself, he has to do the team building himself, and of course, he has to conduct evening classes himself. So he's either an employee or self-employed in some of those scenarios. So, but if you have to categorize all those sources of income, you basically realize that Mr. King has all his sources are falling under active income. But then Mr. King can actually transition these sources, some of them from active to passive. Now, when you look at employment, it's possible that he may not be able to transition because he has to be there, he has to use his skills to do this job. So he may not be able to transition. This will still remain active. As an MC, he may not be able to transition again because I believe sometimes because of his talent, that is why he's able to MC, talk to people, excite people. So he may not transition. But if you look at this other source where he's doing Uber, it's possible that Mr. King can transition into passive income. Basically, what he needs to do is to hire somebody uh, drive this car. And he doesn't need to do it from 5 in the evening. He can actually hire somebody that from morning, ride this car, give that person targets, and therefore the person can move around and generate for him income because he has given him target. So it's possible that he can actually transition this income to passive income. The same way to cloth business, what Mr. King just needs to do is, because he has established a few customers, he can actually open a small shop whereby he puts some clothes on display and therefore employ somebody, give that person targets, and therefore this person goes around doing the sales for Mr. King, while he himself is busy there in employment. Now, for team building, it's also debatable whether he can actually transition out. But if he's able to train people who will be able to help him do the facilitation, it's possible that he can transition. Another way he can transition into passive income is probably he can be able to write a book and say probably this is the way you do the team building. These are the areas that you collect, these activities that you can have, and therefore people can buy the book and read it, and you get royalties from the selling of those books. Again, for teaching, It's dependable again whether you can be able to transition or not, but it's possible you can actually transition by writing books, having probably writing books so that people can be able to read it. But again, sometimes we require him to 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 do it himself. So in if you can see how time factor plays when you're looking at passive and active income. It's all about time and energy. How are you able to ensure that you don't spend all your time uh, in one thing when you can be able to scale, utilize some of this time to do other things, but allow people also to do for you so that you can do a number of things because time you cannot increase times because a day has 24 hours only. So why passive income? As I say, there's a lot of freedom. You work without fear. Uh, and nowadays, because of the competitive environment, there's a lot of competitive environment. So every organization tends to look for ways of reducing costs. And therefore, of late, you have realized this word redundancy keep on coming up and down. And you go to work, you are not sure whether you still have the job. Sometimes you report to work. By the time you come in the evening, you're told the job is not there. So it gives you a lot of freedom because it gives you a lot of freedom. There's flexibility. You can involve your creativity to do quite a lot. It's a recurring income. Suppose you have rent income. Um, you once you have done your constructions, people continue paying you rent. So you're basically comfortable. Um, it's not time bound. You also can work anytime that you want. You can go there when you want because other people are helping you to do the job and you reward them. You have more time to the family. Uh, because some of these jobs that we do as professionals really requires a lot of time. I remember there's a time we work from Monday up to Sunday. And then Monday, then you're also there. Even taking leave becomes a big problem, especially for the professionals who do accounting job in a business office. You actually have no time even for family. And of course, you are basically a boss of your own. So basically, that's what encouraging for us to move towards passive income. Now, the key challenges when you transition into passive income, and you have to be ready to take on the challenges. One of it, some of them will require for you to have initial capital. Suppose you want to put money in stocks, in real estate, it requires initial capital. As I said, the only way to overcome this is to trust the saving culture. Immediately you get that first job, ensure that you save. Saving, it does not matter how much you get, you can actually be able to save. Um, and then, of course, knowledge gap. Sometimes we want to invest in certain areas, we have no proper understanding in that area. So you find sometimes we don't get a proper return because of knowledge gap. Uh, Passive income requires you for you to set sometimes at the beginning. So it requires a lot of sacrifice at the beginning. Sometimes you're setting up a business before you allow people to come and help you do the job. You have to do it yourself, and therefore times commitment. There is also risk. There is fraud. As I said, the more risk you're able to take on, the more risk that you face. And some people don't want to take a risk, but there is high risk. Sometimes you invest in business, people there's fraud that takes place. So one has to be very careful. There is also emotional intelligence. You have to be patient. You will not go into business, and the first month you start making profit. I've been there. The entity that we have, we started about 10 years ago. The first 2 3 years was a big challenge because you have no customer. You walk into some of these finance institutions, they look at you as a black person, they don't trust you. And therefore, but you have to hang in there. You just have to hang in there. You never stop because you have made losses. So it requires a lot of emotional discipline. And as a part of just to highlight some of the few examples where you, quite common examples that where you likely even to invest in this passive income is one of it normally is the real estate is the major common where people do investment. There is high profit, there is steady income. But as I said, the challenge becomes now the initial capital that you have to invest in. The other thing is you have to do a lot of research before you invest in this kind of stream of income. And I've come to realize some people tend to enter into this kind of business when they're almost retiring. I always say that you need to be very careful when you're investing in such because there are people here who will tell you bring all your savings that you've earned. We construct this outlet. Then they don't tell you the real costs. So you have known people, they put all their money they have worked for, then the building reaches 85%, it stalls. Then pressure come in and you find people get heart attack because he has used all his money to be able to put in that business. And again, location also matters where you're going to put this business, where there is amenities and infrastructure, then you're able to get. But it's one of the I've seen people investing in this area. There is it will always appreciate because as population goes by, there's always be a demand for housing. Pension scheme, I always encourage professionals. Immediately you are in an institution where an employer has pension scheme, I always encourage professionals, please start take advantage of the pension because most of them require you to put in an extra percentage. Take advantage of that. Towards the end of the retirement, the the passive income come in the area of interest that is being earned because that one when it goes to the pension fund, they invest that money and you continue earning money on that interest. So you will not just get the money you put in, you get in the money that you put in together with the interest that have been earned. So if you're in an area where an employer has such facility, please take advantage. Don't postpone. There's also investment of inequities. Again, where you invest in shares. Um, Initially, before advancement of technology, it used to be a very cumbersome uh, venture to go in because you have to go through an agent and you pay the money to the agent. The agent will stay with your money before he buys for you the shares. But now, especially like in Kenya, now these things are online. At the back of your office, you can actually trade in shares. You put in your offer. If the offer is acceptable, you accept and you finish. The transaction is complete without going through a third party. But I think the key issue is that you may need some guidance to tell you which institution that you need to invest in, because not all companies make profit. So this way you benefit in equities when the value of shares goes up, and again when the dividend is declared, you also benefit. The other one, which as I almost conclude that like to talk to, I normally talk to professionals, is this money market funds, where you have professionals managing for you the fund. And they normally take in form of commercial paper, where you have a corporate that issues commercial paper for a year or 6 months or 2 years. But the most interesting one is the treasury bills and the treasury bonds, um, basically which are issued by the various governments in various countries. This is a very creative. Again, it has become very easy to invest in this because of digital. You can do it at the comfort of your office. The only challenge sometimes for the treasury bills, there is a minimum that you need to invest in. But if you're able to raise that minimum, is one of the best things. So you have treasury bills that go for 60 days, for 180 days, 1 year, or treasury bonds that goes for 2 years, 3 years. An example in Kenya for the people who took advantage last year, 2 years, the treasury bonds were basically going for almost 18% interest. And the guys who took advantage are really benefiting right now because the interest that was offered does not change. So at 18, 17%, that's a very good return. You can also do fixed deposit in banks. Again, the interest normally tend to be very slow because once you give the bank, you put money fixed deposit, what the bank does, they also just go to these treasury bills to invest there. And therefore they give you the difference. So if the treasury bills is giving like 11%, the bank may be giving you 6% because also they have to make profit, but they've used your money. So why can you just go direct instead of putting in fixed deposit? Why MMFs, I think the good thing is MFF is that depending on the category that you go for, you can actually call that money within a day or 2 days and you'll have back the money. That's why I say putting money in savings account in the bank is not a solution. You better, one is able to take advantage of these MMFs, put money there. If there's a need, you just write an email and tell them I want to take my money back within 2 days. They give you back your money. Is low risk area where you can be able to put money. Um, uh, and again, even the money you need to invest in is very minimal. In Kenya right now, you can even do 1,000 every month. Or whenever you get money, you put in 1,000. So small amount, and you're able to build your portfolio. So basically, that's why I encourage people where you have little men as professionals and you're not sure which area that you need to go as far as passive income. This is where to start. This is an area that you can actually start small as you build your portfolio. So I think I've taken a little bit more time. I think I'll end there, and then we can discuss a few questions that it came through initially when we were registering. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, CP Dr. Edward. That was so enlightening. Yeah. So I got to know that there's a difference between passive and active income, right? Because usually the active, we don't see it in that space of even when you are having all those like the Mr. King that you used, having all those side activities, side gigs, and looking at it when after you've explained what passive and active income is, so it actually means it's actually doing active income, and we are actually supposed to do more of the passive so that we can have more time to ourselves. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot. So I have to always do calculation in my head now. So I need to do more passive, not the active, because we tend to do more of active. Actually, we are always involved in everything that we do. So trying to release that time so that we can focus on other things. Thank you so much, so much. We appreciate that was very enlightening. I don't know, do we have questions? Please, you can drop the question in the chat box. Thank you. So you can pull down your slide and stop sharing. Thank you. So let's have questions. Yeah, we have some questions already on the. Some people already asked, but we'd like to take questions from the people currently present. So please, let's drop our questions. I'm sure we have one or two questions that we want to clarify. Okay. So apologies, I forgot to introduce myself and my colleague. So my name is Abimbola, and I have here with me my colleague Purity. So we are both HR professionals. We have over 15 years of experience in HR. We have passion for when you talk about HR. That's why you see us having this career reframing series. So it's actually a passion to see people thrive professionally. So that's just a bit of us.